Good afternoon, folks. Good morning, West Coast time. Good noonish, Eastern time. And good evening, India time for the folks from India. Today, we have this hangout discussion, a panel hour to discuss something which I think is very much top of mind for a lot of folks and has major impact within the United States and globally also, of course, and of course on US-India relations. My name is Robinder Sachdev. I'm president of the Image India Institute, a think tank. The United States US India Political Action Committee and the Imagine India Institute welcome you to this hour. As we discuss with this eminent panel, which I'll introduce in a moment, I would request any of folks watching on Facebook Live. Right now, this is being broadcast live on the US Impact Facebook page. It is also being broadcast live on Imagine India Facebook page. So any visitors, viewers coming by, checking by, please feel free to ask any questions actually. And that would be lovely because if you ask the questions, then more of our guests can, you can draw out the minds and expertise of this eminent panel that I have with us today. Let me introduce firstly uh, with our colleagues who we have. We have with us on the panel Mr. Jagdish Sewani, who's the president of American India Public Affairs Committee based out of New York. Welcome, Jagdish. A pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ravinderji, for having me. Namaskar.
A warm welcome from the US India Political Action Committee and Imagine India Institute. Next, we have another eminent mind, expert, and also a participant in democracy. You see, the fun is that in our panel, we have people who are experts, observers, analysts, but also participants like Jagdish. Now, welcome Mr. Karan Srinivasan. He's a candidate for treasurer, for the office of treasurer of Loudoun County in the state of Virginia. We wish you all the best and all luck, Karan, from all of us here and our viewers, we think so. Thank you for joining the show. Welcome.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Next, we have Mr. Steve Alonso. He's a government affairs and PAC manager based out of Washington, D.C. Again, an experienced hand, a legislative geek, maybe not, or a specialist also. So, welcome to the show and activist also, show grassroots mobilization and all of that. So, welcome to the show.
Perhaps. So, thank you very much for having me, Robinder. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Thank you very much. Now, the topic for the day today that we have is, and once again, a reminder to the viewers, please, anyone watching by, checking by, pop in your questions, put a like so that we know you are there and what your questions are we can ask from our guests. Now, let me start with Jagdish. Jagdish, if I could have your opening thoughts on where we are or where is America today in terms of the politics, do you see any trends? Are you going to lay any bets one way or the other? And what is your sense of how things are moving? Especially, well, every day in politics is a week or a year. So your take, sir, where is the American election today?
Well, Robinderji, you said it right. Today we have 17 days left in the election. If you see, population of US is around 330 million, and Latinos and African American, they are almost 32-33% of the population, and Indian population is almost 1.
Jagdish ji, if you could kindly speak a bit louder or come nearer to the mic. Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Yes, if you see, the Indian population is 4.5 million. That is 1.5%. Though you see that the population is only 1.5%, but Indian American community is going to play a very important role in coming election. I'll tell you why. You all are aware that election is won on an electoral vote in America. Last time, like Hillary won the popular vote, but she couldn't win electoral vote. So these are 5, 6, 7 battleground states which are going to play a very, very important role. That is Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And Indian population, Indian American voters will play a key role there. what has happened till 2016, majority of Indians, that's what the poll says, they were voting Democrats. But things have changed substantially since last 4 years. More Indians are going towards Republican, they are Trump supporters, and I'm happy about it that Indian American community is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans. So what I see, though the poll says that the Biden is leading as on today, but that is what in 2016 the pundits were saying that Hillary is going to win. So next 17 days are very, very crucial for the election. And as you all are aware that both Trump and Biden, every day they are, though Trump just recovered from the COVID, still every day he is in different battleground state. And that is what is going to make the difference the next 16, 17 days. And Indian American community is going to play a very important role. And I'm very happy about it.
Thank you so much, Jagdish. That is a very, I think, all-encompassing statement. I'll have a quick question from you, and then I'll move on to our next opening comment from Kanan. Let's say in the last couple of weeks, have you seen any trend shifting, like October surprise? Okay, we have plenty of surprises, right? But in the last couple of weeks, would you say that whatever has come may have impacted the race one way or the other? You can take a call which way you think or may not. But would you think have been there some twists in the tail in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I will tell you one thing that, that more Indians are going to vote this time in the election. And that's a very good point. We have been telling our Indian American community to vote, that's very important. Either way, and they have to understand who is good for India. Who is good for India. So my request to my Indian American voters is that before you vote, you think what is going to make the difference. Saying that, I would say the relationship between India and America are very, very important. And whoever becomes the next president, I am sure that India is going to play a very, very important role for their administration. It is not India of 80s. This is India of 2020, where Modi is our prime minister in India. He's a global leader, and whoever comes to power, I'm sure for them, India is going to play a very, very important role. Looking at the demographic, looking at what China has done. So I would leave my case there, and we'll talk about it in next couple of minutes.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jagdish. I think one message obviously definitely out there for all Americans, and especially since we are discussing more about the Indian American community, as you mentioned, go out and vote. Go out and vote and participate more. And also, I think that if you look at the mail-in ballots which are going in, apparently a large number of ballots are going in on mail-in. So anyone, whatever opportunity get mail-in or physical vote, whichever way, go out and participate more. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Robinder.
Now, may I invite Kanan, who is actually himself in the electoral arena too, running as for the position of the office of the treasurer of the county of Loudoun County in Virginia. Kanan, what would be your opening thoughts as to where do you see things are going? And of course, at the end of it or sometime during this discussion, we would love to have you share your experiences for about running for office, right? So,
Yeah.
but in the opening thought, looking at the pan America situation, what are your thoughts, observations?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me, Dr. Sachdeva. And just a small clarification. I was on the ballot last November. I'm going to be on the ballot again. I'm committed to run again. I got about 50,000 plus votes countywide. I ran against a 27-year incumbent, so it's not easy. So I did reach 50,000 votes countywide. He has been in the office for. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was an amazing experience. I had the endorsements of all the elected leaders from Virginia. I ran as the Democratic nominee. And as I said, I'm looking forward to do it again. It is an experience that if anyone who wants to do it, who has the interest should absolutely do that. I'm very fortunate. My wife was a big supporter and was my campaign manager. But it's an amazing experience. So coming back to your question about this coming election, I absolutely agree with the other panelist, Jagdish ji, about voting. It's absolutely important. When I knocked thousands of doors last year, when I was as a candidate, um, it's absolutely important that our community comes out and votes. And I don't care who they vote for. I was a big volunteer for Senator Governor Kane at the time when he ran for Senate, and my wife and I used to make hundreds and thousands of phone calls. I've lived in Loudon for more than 20 years now. When I came here, maybe the estimate of Indian American population in this county was maybe 3,000, maybe 4,000. Today, the estimate is close to 40,000, 35 to 40,000. 20% of the 10th congressional district is Asian Americans. The county has completely changed from a demographic perspective. I'm a CPA. I love numbers. I look at numbers all the time from my work, from my political work. Numbers make a big difference. We are a huge number now, and everybody notices it, right? But everybody also notices whether we vote or not. That's also available. We can say, hey, we are 20% of the population. Any politician, whether it doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat, they look at these numbers. Okay, which community comes out and votes? And our numbers can be much better. And I'm so glad to hear from Jagdish ji that he's seeing more Americans excited. I see that too in my Zoom calls. I'm also very active in the Democratic Party of Virginia. And I'm also the treasurer for the local party here. I'm also very active in the healthcare. The reason why I mentioned that is that is a big issue in this election. What I see out there is an election where there's clearly polarization. We all know that, given the political landscape now. But there are also key issues, whether it's Supreme Court nomination, whether it's healthcare, and I want to talk a little bit about healthcare because I think that is what you see being focused by the campaign, is because after 10 years of ACA, healthcare has become really a big issue because we have millions of people who have signed up in the ACA program. They don't want to lose it. They don't want pre-existing conditions to be at risk. I'm very fortunate to serve as the co-chair of the Virginia Medicaid Board. Governor Terry McAuliffe appointed me 3 years ago. I see the work the large Medicaid board does in a big state like Virginia. Now that's a front and center issue. And I hope I'll get another opportunity to talk a little bit about governance because I think governance matters. With all of the drama of democratic politics, whether it's here or in India, ultimately governance matters. I think people ultimately vote whether they like a Democratic candidate or a Republican candidate. I could vote for a Republican candidate. I could vote for a Democratic candidate if I feel like I'm better off, that my issues are being addressed to. I think that will ultimately decide the fate of this election. And I hope the Indian American community comes out in big numbers, as I've always said in my campaigns. I don't care who you vote for, just vote.
Great. Thank you so much, Karan. I mean, several takeaways, I think. And the fun thing is this conversation, I hope it builds up. And we have some viewers actually. One viewer just put in a comment saying worth. This is Uday Sachan. Thank you, Uday, for watching. We encourage anyone to keep watching. I see a number of eyeballs which are out there watching, coming by. But please put in your comments and rather put in your questions, because that will give us and ignite more fire and minds of this brilliant panel that we have today. Now, that being said, yes, the points that you made in terms of governance, absolutely, sir. I think that's a key, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious and really a concern. Governance, healthcare, absolutely yes. Now, let me invite Steve to give his opening thoughts and comments of, and I'll not reframe, I'll rephrase or re-say the topic that we have today. 3 weeks or less than 3 weeks till November 3. where is America now, Steve, in your thoughts?
Thank you very much. And so, I mean, I think it's very interesting to notice how sort of the trends are evolving and how, certain events are sort of, may or may not be really shifting things in the polls. And President Trump didn't quite get much of a bounce from, his triumphant, recovery from COVID and leaving leaving the hospital. And so it's I just can't help but notice, but it seems like, Republicans, especially in the Senate and House races, they're spending a lot of money in certain places where they normally might not otherwise be doing so, such as there's a lot of Senate money going to up in Alaska, and up as well as, the chief of staff's old seat, Mark Meadows, in North Carolina. There's a very young motivational speaker conservative who a lot of folks thought it would be a quick, easy shoo-in, and a lot of Republicans are sending money there to help hold that seat. So it's, I think, very interesting. I think that's a good way to sort of see where the parties themselves are projecting how to what they sort of foresee the electoral results are going to be in terms of just always follow the money, because it's really paying attention to ad buys and things of that nature. And it's interesting. I'm curious to see how these dueling town halls that just happened on Thursday are really going to pan out. Obviously, the ratings have came in thus far, and I think the Trump campaign might have been a little bit disappointed because they were, projecting we're going to, blow Biden out of the water, get a lot more viewers, and thus far it didn't quite seem to be that way when the actual hard TV numbers came out. But so it's obviously the last presidential debate coming up this week is going to be a big key point. The final time the candidates are actually going to face each other out. It's only going to be the second time this cycle. And so that should be moderated by Kristen Welker of NBC. And it should be a very particularly interesting take on sort of what the final days are and how the folks are really going to try to nail down, hold on to their base and try to sway the very few minimum independent voters that are left. Because I think a lot of us agree there's got to not be too many of them out there, especially with the election being so polarizing as it is. There's not a whole lot of it is, that's everybody's trying to hone in on those few independent voters left, and it's just kind of sort of where they're going to be at. And as the closer we get to election day, it's not even going to be more about convincing folks or changing minds. It's all about turnout and getting the people to come out and vote, because clearly that at the end of the day, that's what's most important to these candidates.
Thank you so much, Steve. That is very interesting. I'll take the cue from you and follow the money and go to Jagdish with that. Jagdish, I think there's a report yesterday or today only that the Biden campaign has raised a substantially larger amount than the Trump campaign, apparently, right, in the last month.
Right.
The number is like, I forget the exact numbers, but maybe Biden campaign has raised 400 million or something, and the Trump campaign has 250 or some million, right? And if we were to pick up on Steve's, cue and segue into that, follow the money. So why do you think that is happening? And secondly, if that is happening, does it kind of, is it a preamble of something to come? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you said it right. Yes, Biden campaign has raised a lot of money, but don't underestimate Trump campaign. They have tons of money. They have lots of friends in businesses, and also money is not a problem for Trump campaign. And like I said, that we should, as on today, of course, Biden is leading in the polls, but you never know. Last 16, 17 days are very crucial. Where this will go, especially in the battleground state, is going to be decided people going out and vote their base. So, and what has happened in this election, a lot of people are going to vote by mail or by absentee. So that is also going to make a lot of difference. I mean, as far as, again, I will go back to our Indian American community. It's very, very important they should go and vote, so that the relationship is very, very important between these two countries, India and US, the largest and oldest democracy. So whoever comes, I believe, of course, Modi has a personal chemistry with Trump. We are all aware of that. And if you see nowadays, more people are going to vote Republican than they voted last time. But saying that, I would say that whoever gets elected, I'm sure India is going to be a key point in the foreign relation of USA in coming years.
Thank you. I mean, that is a great and valid point, and US-India relations would be something absolutely, I think we all follow, and we are heavily, if not invested in terms of emotionally, at least we are invested in, in the shape and vibrancy and growth of this relationship. And there's a clear-cut rationale for it, actually, for this relation.
No,
Now, I'll ask a quick question, Jagdish, and I'll move over to Khananji. Yes, we do understand, but again, I'll put a number out there, right? I think just earlier this week, there was a report out from Pew,
right.
report, which
Yes,
said that for whatever, I mean, as one of them, maybe many researchers, or it's not an opinion poll, or whatever, it says that apparently 72% of the Indian American community is leaning Democrat. Now, before I come to the question and your view on that, I think we do understand that more or less, yes, traditionally the Indian American community has been heavily Democratic. Last election, some of it moved towards Republican, some of it maybe. What percentage we don't know. It's out there, right?
right.
In this election, apparently more numbers were thought to be moving towards the Republican side. But the Pew report which comes, actually doesn't kind of do justice to that sense. Why do you think that what the perception was that the, much leaning towards the Republican side has not happened as per Pew at present? A short answer, if you may, and then I
Yes,
have
yes.
to.
I will quickly, Robinder, even if you consider 72%, if you recall in 2016, Indian voted 88% to Democrats. So from 88,
True.
it has come down to 72. That is 16% less. But I personally don't agree with what those numbers. I think
Sure.
more than that are going to vote Republicans this time than 70, I mean, 28%. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you very much.
I mean,
Much.
if you see, even no, I'll say quickly, if you see both the Indian American community have raised funds not only for Democrats, but this time they have raised a lot of money for Republican also, Trump also. So you have to consider
Great.
that point also. And I am in
Certainly.
touch with my friends in Florida, Pennsylvania, and I know for sure that I don't know from where they got 72%, but that's not the correct, according to me, and the information given to me.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, much understood. Yeah. So, Kanan, sir, I'll come back, and you're a number cruncher, you said, right? So this
Yeah.
comes to you again. Uh, One, this question that Biden has outraised. Okay, it could be said that 1 month period outraising is not. You have to look at the totality, right, of the numbers. But if this is a trend that Biden campaign is raising substantially more than the Trump campaign, what does it indicate? What do you think? And then, secondly, to the point which Jagdish ji is making, that about this Pew report which is out there, 72%, 80%. Where do you see this? Some of the Indian American community, spread going. Yours, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again. So let's talk about the dollars. Yes, I do trace that, but what does that represent? There is clearly enthusiasm on the Democratic side. If you really think about where the dollars are coming from, the key numbers to look at is, are they coming from small donors, and what percentage of the dollar amount is a mix of small donors. And you have seen all the numbers after the first debate, after Supreme Court nomination, and all of those instances, the Democrats have been able to outrace the opposite side with a ton of small donors. So much so, you can see the amount of money Jamie Harrison has raised in South Carolina for a Senate race. That's a tie that nobody would have said could even be a tie. But more importantly, the amount of money Jamie Harrison was able to raise from small donors. So, Robinder, my bottom line on that is, it clearly is an indicator of strong enthusiasm and people willing to give 10, 20, 30, whatever dollars so that they can help the cause. But I'll tell you something. As I said, I've been a candidate last year. My raise was $100,000 raise. Okay, not $1 million raise, not $100 million raise. I'll tell you this: money is important in politics, but money is not everything in politics. Money alone doesn't win any races on any side. We have enough examples in the past Senate races and presidential races, in any race that you can take, where somebody might have had a huge advantage of money, but still may not have come over the finish line. So it is part of the mix. It's important. Money is a key ingredient, but that alone doesn't win elections. Coming back to the Indian American community, I think the poll that you are quoting, Ravindraji, is from Carnegie. Is from Carnegie, if I remember right. I don't know if it is Pew. Maybe there's a Pew one. I think it's
Few. I
Carnegie.
think it's still a training.
Okay,
Either
it
way.
doesn't matter. They are all reputed institutions. There's
Yeah,
also
you're
a
right. Could be
professor from
correct.
There's also a professor from California who has
Sure.
done a study, Karthik Ramachandran. They're all credible folks who have done credible studies, but there's not a ton of. As you know, in polls, you need so many of these polls, and we don't have them, right? We just don't have. But one thing I can tell you from my internal information, the data that we are looking at internally, from the group that I'm involved with, there is certainly some shift, for a lot of reasons, from the Indian American community towards the Republican side. Now, I'll tell you one thing also to counter that. While that might be related to few issues that they may be, concerned about, the immigration issue is also a counter to that. I have a lot of friends here in Loudoun County. Loudoun is the richest county in the country for many years. It's one of the high tech capitals of the world. I don't have to mention anything more. You can Google it in 2 seconds. Um, they're all concerned about. I'm talking about citizen Indian Americans. They're all concerned about their family and friends and neighbors, H-1B status, H-4 status. Their kids growing up now, becoming 18 years of age, and they won't be able to stay in the parents' visa because they are never going to get their green card. So they have to go to F1 visa. I mean, it's so complicated. I've been in this country close to 30 years now, and I've gone through that process. I came here as a student. I've gone through the H-1B process. I've gone through the green card process. I can't even imagine what they're going through. So one of the issues they have on their side, let's say I'm an Indian American person who wants to support it, the Republican ticket now. I do have valid concerns about how is this going to improve for them, because there is no hope for them, because the other side might say, oh, we haven't really done anything to you, but they're being taken to the wall and then brought back, taken to the wall and brought back, right? So they have gone through this motion back and forth on H4 visa and this visa and that visa. My friends are telling me, Kanan, we want to be in a position where we can make progress. And that is one of the things that the Biden campaign has been very open. By the way, I'm an elected Biden delegate from Loudoun. I'm the only Biden delegate from Loudoun. And that is one of the things that we have been extremely open about, and we have talked to the campaign a ton, is to make sure that we have shown a clear plan of what this means if Biden-Harris ticket wins, what this means to the Indian American community for immigration, because that is their existential issue, if that makes sense.
Great, Anand. Absolutely a wonderful flow of the discussion. In fact, there was a question from one of the viewers. In fact, we had comments from a couple of viewers. I'll just share with you so that it helps us increase the interactivity and the fact that our message is going out. One of them, I think some of us know. I know him, of course. Dr. Suresh Gupta, a very active doctor in the Washington D.C. area from Maryland, a great friend and a very avid participant, and also in Indian American affairs and U.S.-India relations. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Please do ask any questions. And the US India Political Action Committee and the Imaginary Institute much welcome your thoughts, your participation, your engagements, any end of the spectrum. And we have a brilliant panel, a thoughtful, reflective discussion out here. So thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. Look forward to other comments. Now, one thought which I was taking from you, Kanan, to Steve, and which I thought of asking, but a viewer asked a question which I think I can link it to it. This is Mr. Ajit Singh. Uh, Circling back when I started with Jagdeep asking about the money being raised by the Trump campaign and Biden campaigns, and then Kanan mentioned, money is important, but there are other aspects also. Steve, I have a couple of questions from you. One, there have been talk that Trump is saying that, or not saying, reportedly that Trump could put in his own money also. He's put in some, but there's some number being thrown in that $100 million of his own money he will put in. There's some talk going on maybe out there, right? So what is your thought on that? Would he put in some money, or what range of money? Is there any truth to that maybe? or we
I think
don't
if
know?
he was going to at all this cycle, he would have already. I mean, even looking back to looking back in the history of money in presidential politics, there's some races where it really has an impact, some not so much. Let's rewind to 2008 when Senator Obama was running against Senator McCain. There were obviously other outlying factors, perhaps such as maybe folks weren't a fan of Senator McCain's vice presidential pick, or obviously a change candidate, my first minority candidate at the top of a ticket. Those are obviously important factors, but something also a lot of folks don't really recall is that Senator Obama had sort of hedged his beliefs on taking public financing or not for the longest time here in the United States, and they're still on there. Your tax returns, you can check a box saying, well, I want to donate X amount of dollars to federal presidential campaigns. So for the longest time, folks always took the public money. Back in 2008, President Obama said, yeah, I'll commit to take public money, and so did Senator McCain. And then President Obama realized he can fundraise about almost double, triple, a lot of the amount more money when it comes to small little donations, such as Kenny had mentioned. And it turns out, well, Senator McCain was limited how much he could spend, only about 66 million, I believe, and Senator Obama raised about 300 million. Maybe even more. So it's roughly about 7-1 that he got outspent this campaign. So obviously that was a big impact there. But rewind even 4 years ago, President Trump didn't have as much money as Secretary Clinton. So it really depends on the race and depends on how much it affects. I guess more of my comments earlier were referred to more the down ballot races, the congressional and Senate races. But especially when it comes to presidential politics, of course, money does matter, but as time goes on, with a lot of like such as Thursday's town halls, neither campaign paid for those, but that was a whole lot of free new media exposure. So that's it was basically a free infomercial for each respective candidate on one network or the other. And so, like I said, neither campaign had to pay for that. And I'm also, I guess, to wrap it up, part of my interesting thoughts right now are about sort of, some campaigns are still doing the door knocking and get out the vote, but some are also pulling back a little bit in terms of not really trying to reach voters that way. And I guess it's going to be interesting to see sort of at the end of the day what maybe worked or what didn't. And in terms of because a lot of there's been phone sampling forever and ever, and of course that is very important in terms of reaching out and making voter contacts. But like I said, I'm not exactly sure which candidates are not in terms of maybe one side Democrats maybe aren't as like I said, I don't know in terms of get out the votes per se. I don't have those specifics, but I guess I'm just curious how it will pan out in terms of if maybe certain specific races, like this candidate didn't have much of a get out the vote effort in terms of actually knocking on doors, whereas the other one maybe did. But again, rewind to 4 years ago, President Trump's campaign was totally disorganized and had very little get out the vote effort, especially not a coordinated one, and he won anyways. But so hopefully that answered most of the question. But there are also a lot of variables. There are a lot of factors influencing elections nowadays. That's for certain.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Robinder,
Jagdishji, now I'm coming to you, please. If you could come closer to the mic, your sound somehow is a little bit far. Jagdishji, could you come closer to the mic or give us a better benefit of your baritone voice?
Yes.
All yours. A comment and then my question.
I just wanted to add one thing to this, about money here. If money was the issue, then, Mayor Bloomberg will be the candidate of Democratic Party. How much money he spent, but still, it didn't go anywhere. So money is important, but ultimately it's people who vote that is more important.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I mean, that's a very firm reminder, actually, and that's a clear answer to the viewer who had asked that apart from money, what are the muscles? It's the people who go out and vote. It's the muscles which take you. You walk and you cast your vote. That is more important, right? So thank you so much, Jagdishji, for wrapping it up in that sense. Now, we'll have one more round of discussion, maybe around these topics, and then we'll have, maybe 1 or 2 rounds on US-India relations, right? Though we understand both administrations, anyone which comes, the trajectory is good and fine. But with the overhang of China, there's one school of thought which I wanted to bounce with you. That'll be the next round. On this one, or rather, let's go to the US-India one. There's a school of thought which says that for China, so now this is US-India relations in the geopolitical, not the immigration or other aspects which we could also look at. There's a school of thought which says that a Trump administration would actually be better than Biden for China, and therefore whatever its implications for India. The reason why this school of thought puts this out It says that broadly it's understood that in the United States, the sentiment against China is pretty much done. I mean, it seems that the US is very unhappy, the publics are very unhappy, and the administration, whichever comes, is unhappy with China. That will continue. However, if it is a Trump presidency, then what could happen is that China could strike some grand deal with Trump and say, okay, fine, we do this, you do this, let's make a deal, let's negotiate, let bygones be bygones. Now we are back to business as usual. So the chances of such a deal and an understanding coming between China and a Trump administration are higher than such a deal, quote unquote, between China and a Biden administration, because apparently the Biden administration will keep on going slow and steady kind of a thing, right? It won't kind of make any out of the box deal with China. What is your thought on that?
Well, Robinderji, I would say one thing. The relationship between India and US are not just simple between US and India. They are people to people relationship and business to business relationship that has increased drastically in last 1 decade. So I personally feel, and my various friends whoever I discuss, they feel that if Trump comes to power, of course the relationship between India and US will be at much higher level than they are now. Of course, India is very important part of US foreign relations. So they are, I'm sure that Trump is going to see that the relationship between the largest and the oldest democracy are much better than they are today. I don't believe in that. These people are, of course, saying what you said, that China will try to make some deal. But as on today, what China has done to the world after this COVID-19, nobody trusts China, whether it is US, whether it is Australia, whether it is Japan, or whether it is Europe, or South Korea, India. So China, if you see, doesn't have a good relationship with most of the countries in the world. So I don't think Trump will make a side deal with China. Rather, he will keep his chips on India, which is more bankable and more trustworthy at this juncture.
Thank you so much, Jagdishji. And we have a comment coming in from Dr. Suresh Gupta, an observation of his. He's, as we know, some of us, he's very active himself, a political leader in his own right. He is mentioning that I have observed that Indian American community this year is more involved in the election more than before, and more so on the Trump side and more openly. Fair enough, yes. I mean that does seem to be a reflection that we all are seeing. Now, how much that translates into what we don't know, but absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for your thoughts. In fact, Dr. Gupta, you should be on this show with us also sometime. I think it'll be a pleasure for us to have you on this discussion. Now, quick answer on this same aspect of geopolitics from your perspective, Kanan, to the same question that a Trump administration, the perception being in some quarters that a Trump administration may be more amenable to a quick out of the box solution with China and move on, make a business deal, so to say, a New York style deal, and move on. And it would have some implications on India. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, um, I mean that's a concern, that's a perception, but I'll go a little deeper. I think a Biden-Harris administration would bring stability to the entire foreign affairs scenario, particularly when we talk about US India and then India China. Um, I think you have some seasoned hand in Vice President Joe Biden. He has been active in this arena for a long time. He's not going to do something knee jerk or quick. And certainly he does not have those instincts that President Trump has shown. So one thing I would say is I think it'll be far more stable. As far as what President Trump would do, it's hard to speculate because the last 4 years, from my view, there has been a lot of statements, but I don't know how much of it really translated into actions. And whenever it turned into action, I don't know if it hurt or helped the American farmers or the American, regular folks. So for to answer your question, Ravidaji, I think that's a concern, but I would pivot quickly to say a Biden-Harris administration would bring more stability. And yes, they may not do something overnight, but I think a slow and steady, but a firm, slow and steady. I think that's what we need.
Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, absolutely. On that, on that context, Trump administration next would take India-US relations to even greater heights than whatever they are right now, right? If we were to define. So I mean, these are open questions. We don't know. We are just kind of maybe speculating in the realm of,
Yeah.
speculation. In this
Yeah,
sense.
if I may just add one quick comment, Ravinderji, is that I have listened to some senior folks in the campaign who are experts in foreign policy, who currently are involved with Vice President Biden, clearly say, how they're going to push very firm and hard on the rules-based system that China needs to follow. Period. I mean, I don't think anybody should have any doubt that a Biden-Harris administration is going to go loose on those issues, no matter what. So, and that has to benefit India, which is in the neighbor.
Thank you so much. One moment. I see Jagdish has a point to make. You're welcome, sir. But I'll just quickly let us welcome Vincent to the panel, our esteemed guest. Thank you so much, Vincent, for joining. The floor will be yours in a moment. Jagdish had a follow-up comment to what Karan is saying. Then I'll have the pleasure to introduce you to the viewers who are watching. Once again, my reminder to folks, anyone who's watching this broadcast, please put in your questions, your comments, your thoughts as you walk by, see by. You can see that we've got a brilliant panel out here discussing in a reflective manner what we see 3 weeks away from November 3rd. Jagdish, your comment, and then we introduce Vincent to the panel.
I just have one concern with Biden Kamala team is that they should stop talking about Kashmir and India's internal matters. They are going to lose a lot of votes because of that. So they have to understand that Kashmir is integral part of it. Article 370 is abrogated. They should not discuss. India doesn't, unnecessarily discuss about internal matters of America. So US, this Biden campaign should not unnecessarily poke into internal matters of India like CAA and Kashmir. And I'm sure, we have sent messages to them. We are in touch with them, and they have promised us that they will look into this.
Thank you. That's a great point. In fact, one of the rounds I had in this was that for each participant, supposing your leaning is towards Republican, I want you to identify what you think are the chinks in your armor and what would you advise your opponent to do or not do. Put yourself in other feet. So that's a great point. Now, thank you very much. Now, let's welcome Vincent Parathingal. Vincent is a leader in his own right, an entrepreneur. We've known him for a long while. And he is also on the export council of President Trump, which has been out there. So, welcome, Vincent, to the panel. The US India Political Action Committee and the Imagine India Institute welcome you, as well as we are reaching out and suggesting to our viewers. I see many people are watching by, eyeballs, likes. This program has been broadcast live on the Facebook page of US India Political Action Committee, as well as on the Facebook page of Imagine India Institute, and a recording of this program would be available on YouTube later, right? So then you can we'll pass it to you. You can share it, the panelists, that is, you can share it with your friends, family, colleague, if you want to. We hope you would like to share this. So without much ado, let me welcome Vincent. So Vincent, the topic is there. We were getting into some really interesting, thoughts and counter thoughts and observations. But that being aside, what are your opening thoughts on, let's say, 3 weeks from November 3? Where do you see things happening or falling on November 3rd?
Thank you so much, Robinder. Thank you, US India Political Action Committee, as well as Image India Institute, for doing this and having me on the panel. I really appreciate it. From what I can see, I think this is an audience, an Indian audience that we are looking at, Indian American audience, as well as an audience in India. So I'm a Republican, and I'm not a born-again Republican. I was a Democrat. I have voted for Obama in the past twice. So I'm not really kind of fixated in my mind as far as political parties are concerned. I am a politician based on whatever is the current need and the current situation is. And as you can see, the Republican Party clearly represents what Indian Americans or what India as a nation wants to happen, at least in the immediate future. So that is my beginning thought, and that is why we should be supporting Republican Party. So if you look at the law and order situation, what we saw in the last few months in America, like burning and looting and everything, and in spite of that, the Democratic Convention, we don't hear anything, including the former presidents, talking anything about law and order and law enforcement. And on the other hand, the Republican administration is a major focus of that. All the all the police associations have endorsed President Trump. So we as a people, Indian Americans, became successful in this country, not by anything else other than sheer hard work and a conducive environment for our growth. So if we lose the law and order in this country, we don't have that environment. So what we came here to embrace in America will not be available for us anymore. So that is one thought. And then you already were discussing about issues related to India. So if you look at Biden's stance, whether it comes to China or Pakistan, that India's arch rivals in that region, they are on the other side. And that is the way Democrats were always. They had that big brother attitude towards Indians all the time. And Trump is a very straight shooting person. So when I started supporting him in 2016, he hasn't made his India policy very clear. But still, I supported him because I knew this guy is a straight shooter, and a straight shooting president cannot take the stand supporting communist China or Islamist Pakistan. And I was proven right. So that is why we have seen very good relations between India and America blooming, and especially that similar to NATO pact that Trump is leading, with Mike Pompeo recently mentioning that, like a treaty between India, Australia, Japan, and United States. That is an essential thing to contain China. China is growing like Soviet Union. They are getting into more and more territory. So this has to be stopped. And India is the only countermeasure, and America is India's partner to make it happen. So that's my beginning thought.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I'll take a quick, with the permission of my fellow panelists, give him another question, and then we'll move on to the circular order. Vincent, earlier in the day, I mean, in this panel, we were discussing a recent report which said that in the last month, apparently, Biden campaign has outraised the Trump campaign by a significant amount, right? What are your thoughts on that? What is it indicative of that? What do you think? Sure, coming from your perspective, from as a Trump supporter, absolutely fair. But what do you think is what? I mean, is it any is it a red flag?
No, definitely. The opponent raising more money is definitely always a red flag. So we had to be countering that by making ourselves our contributions more and making Trump also have the money. But if you look at 2016, you can very clearly see that money didn't play a major role. Trump didn't raise any money. He was playing with his own money in 2016, and he had only 1/3 of what Hillary Clinton had, and still he won the election. So I know I'm in politics also. Now people say always that money is the biggest thing, but it is not always the biggest thing. If you can connect with people, if you can relate with their problems, that goes a long way. I mean, not just money and advertisement in TV. People are not stupid. I always believe that even the uneducated people, their collective intelligence is much smarter than all these elite media and the elite Harvard graduates sitting in their corporate rooms and making policies. So people are smart. People are seeing what Trump is standing for, and that is essential for any politician to have. And that is why Biden is now talking the language of Trump. I mean, he has, moved far away from the hardcore socialism and all that, because I know Trump's language is resonating with people, common people. So money is definitely a concern. We have to have money, but at the same time, money is not going to decide any election. It's what the leader is talking.
Thank you, Vincent. That's a great point you make. In fact, I mean, that was one of the questions which came in earlier in the chat from one of the viewers. You can see the questions which are out there below, right? These are questions coming in from the viewers and all. So this was a question: what other muscles are required apart from money in U.S. elections? So yes, relating to people, and I think our all three panelists have also said that money is not the defining factor. It's relating to people, getting out to vote, casting the vote, and the connect which is out there. So thank you so much for your opening comments on there. Now let me move to Kanan, please, if I may. Kanan, okay, so we've heard topics very rightly. You were mentioning immigration earlier. Vincent is mentioning law and order. Definitely so. These are topics which resonate. So, what is your take that how is the Biden campaign being able to come to this message that law and order, which and a rule-based order within the country, right, which is the most important, uh, uh, is playing out that message and what impact it may have on Indian American voters? Because law and order would definitely be a number one issue, one of them, of course, right? Your thoughts?
So, yeah, absolutely. So again, Vice President Joe Biden and the campaign, and I'll particularly call out Vice President Biden, Joe Biden on this. He has repeatedly said that law and order is not only number one, and he has clearly condemned any rioters, anybody who does any violence. He has repeatedly said this as recently as last week. I was watching one of his town hall programs and other TV interviews. So, as an active Democrat, as someone as a Biden delegate from Loudoun County, I can tell this to you. Law and order is very critical to me. It's a top issue, and I have no concerns that a Democratic administration would be any different. By the way, let me give you the others an interesting angle to this. When Vice President Pence was debating Senator Kamala Harris, we could see that he was trying to criticize her on being a very strong district attorney in San Francisco. It was pretty interesting. Here was Vice President Pence trying to criticize Senator Kamala Harris on her record as a district attorney in San Francisco for having prosecuted more folks. So law and order is something very dear to our platform. In political campaigning, things can go out of hands by media and by advertisements. But if you really look through and if you watch through carefully, I'm very confident that my side would be stellar on law and order.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve, if I may ask you, sorry, yeah. You work with political action committees and you look at ethnic communities also in the voting patterns, and of course the Indian American community is one of the vibrant and large segments within the broad mosaic. What do you think as this discussion is going, law and order and immigration, let's say, uh, would immigration issues amongst the Indian American community somehow, or how would it play vis-a-vis law and order? Because I do think yes, or is the Biden campaign's message of law and order reaching the ethnic communities, as Kanan is pointing out?
Reaching them and specifically, that's interesting to say. I mean, granted, yes, the both candidates have very different stances when it comes to immigration and how they want to handle things as HB1 visas, and that especially those are some issues near and dear to a lot of Indian American hearts as well as Indians back home. So it's very interesting to see the sort of dichotomy of, obviously immigration being at the forefront of a lot of these issues. And so when it comes to the balance between law and order and immigration, I guess it tends to seem like a lot of voters tend to gravitate towards the president in terms of that. But when it comes to increasing legal immigration and allowing more folks to come here, obviously that tends to be more of a Democratic currently a viewpoint of them. Obviously, President Trump has sort of said he wishes to maybe roll back a little bit of legal immigration numbers, and as well as it seems like the Biden campaign has more clear stances of wanting to open the doors to more possibly H-1B visas. So there are definitely very two clear choices in terms of for voters to make this in the next couple of weeks if they've not already made it. And it is, like I said, very it is a very interesting topic and a very important topic very relevant, I should say, to the minds of a lot of voters nowadays, especially in our community, the ones we're discussing amongst.
Thank you so much. Now, let me move to Jagdish ji. Jagdish ji, again, you've been hearing, and would you add any other issue top of the mind for the Indian American community? It seems we kind of come around to law and order, immigration. What else are some issues, and where do you think which campaign is doing a better job of getting its message or the content? I mean, there has to be a content for the message, right? So, what are your thoughts on this?
I think besides immigration, the another issue is economic, the business relationship between the two countries. We personally feel that the current business bilateral trade between US and India is close to say 100 billion or so. It is capable, we are capable of doing it up to $500 billion in next 5 to 7 years. So we should focus on that. The US administration should focus on the bilateral trade now. They should open up more the business, there should be open relationship in business. They should give us a most favored nation transfer of technology transfer, so that we could achieve this $500 billion, which India is capable of. Like they have a relationship. China's trade is close to more than $500 billion. So US and India should have a bigger trade now, bilateral trade. That's more concern, and that should happen, and that will happen eventually in next few years.
Great. That's an interesting point you make, and that ties in correctly and directly with Vincent, because Vincent is looking into improving America's exports, right, Vincent? So, two things. One is exports globally, right, because from the American context, but yeah, between US and India, as Jagdishji is saying. So, what are your thoughts that? And it seems that on economy, the ratings or the perception of a Trump administration are slightly better or equivalent to Biden's, and there's that even balance, or maybe. So, how do you take it, and how will the next Trump administration, grow exports, grow American jobs? One, and secondly, within that umbrella, grow US-India bilateral trade. As Jagdish is saying, I mean, the target of $500 billion has been there for some time. Are we really inching towards it, or how do we accelerate towards it? Vincent.
Robinder, just a real quick remark on the previous question, the law and order, about what Kannan mentioned.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, when we talk about the Kamala Pence debate, he mentioned about Pence raising objections about Kamala prosecuting people. But as you can see, the Republicans are the ones who are always being blamed for racism and anti-black and anti-minority and all of that. So when Kamala is sitting there and labeling Pence or Trump administration as the racist administration, that is when Pence have to say that Kamala was prosecuting even small crimes. And actually, in fact, she was only going after small crimes, like small drug possession and small things, and putting African American youth in the jail in so big numbers. And the same Kamala, she raised money to bail out looters in Minneapolis, looters and burners, and people who were doing, having a mayhem in Minneapolis. She was raising money at that time to bail them out. So that is a hypocrisy that she is saying that she's on prosecuting criminals when she was prosecuting like very small crimes like drug possession and stuff like that. And on the other hand, on a philosophy side, on the policy side, we can see that she was raising money to bail out people who are burning and looting. So just wanted to make that remark before I go to the export thing. And as far as I am concerned, I'm a small business exporter.
Yeah, export one.
Now, I'm a small business exporter myself, and I have seen that there are so many ways America can empower its small business exporters by having better credit guarantees. We have credit guarantees available from Export-Import Bank at this point, but it's very cumbersome for a small guy, for a small businessman, to have the official, the machinery to manage all those paperwork and stuff. So what I will be advising when I get an opportunity, of course, it's going to depend on his, winning again, is going to be how to focus on small businessmen to increase America's exports, because America is giving a lot of subsidies and everything for large exporters, which is good. There is nothing wrong with that. But we really need to make sure that small business guys are also aware of the credit guarantees that are available, and the process has to become simpler, and the process has to become more known that that we are not taking all the risks. So those methods to empower small businessmen to export American products, that is very important for making America export more. Because if you look at China, it is not the huge imports that makes China the most exporting nation. Because even for small things, people can go to furniture, and I'm hearing people, my friends in Kerala, they're exporting. I mean, they're importing things from China, dealing with very small businessmen. Good product, quality products, but they don't have to go through the big hassle in their process of importing. So that is not available in America. A lot of ordinary people, they don't know how to export, even if they have a product or even if they have access to it. So that is an area that I will be advising the administration on if when I get a chance.
That's a great point. Thank you, Winston. And by the way, I just wanted to share a comment from Dr. Gupta, who's watching this program. And he's saying that he has shared this watch party on his wall, inviting other people to join. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. That is the intent of Facebook Live, the program and the show that we are hosting, so that more and more, we can extend. It's about outreach, connect, and discussion of thoughts. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. Been such a pleasure. Much thanks on behalf of the US India Political Action Committee and the Imagine India Institute, and I think our panelists also, because this means your views are going, wider and deeper, etc.
Robinder,
Now,
just let me ask you a quick question.
yeah,
How do you do this? Share this live. US Impact, is that the Facebook Live page?
yes, yeah, you take that Facebook Live on which is showing on US Impact page right now. You just go and share it on your timeline
Okay, thank you.
right now. So if you share it on your own timeline right now, then your friends and your friends on your timeline would also be able to see. That's one of the things we really encourage. So, in fact, my apologies. I should have mentioned this at the start of the program that, please share this link on your own Facebook page also, so that your own timeline also sees it. Or once after this is finished, it will be still on US Impact page. You can still go and share it on your, on your timeline, and the entire recording would play out there, right? Thank you so much. Now, let me come to Kanan. And I think this was a big issue which we've been talking several, but which was, there. Social tensions, right, or social divisiveness in society. And as Vincent is mentioning about Kamala Harris's, record and stuff like that, definitely there are different views. So, what is your thought that how is this element playing out in the Indian American community with respect to, the social tensions and the healing of America? What do you think? Where the sentiments of the community lie more? Vincent's clearly lie on one side of the, aisle. Fair enough. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Ravinderji. But before I go there, I want to make a quick comment about, we talked about US India
Sure.
trade potential. I'm so glad Jagdish ji talked about half a trillion. It absolutely is possible. That is one of my, as an accountant, as a chartered accountant was practiced in India 30 years ago. It pains me so much to see how much of the trade potential is still we are behind, right? So, but one thing I'll say is when Trump administration took off the general preferential system, it absolutely hurt a ton of small businesses in India. Yes, it is not a big number item when you aggregate everything, but as an accountant, I can tell you that's a big deal to small exporters, whether they are here, whether they're in India. I'm still disappointed that that has not come back again and been taken care. And that would be one of my advocacy if we are lucky to serve in the next administration. So coming back to social
Sure.
issues, it's absolutely. By the way, I'm very active in the NAACP in Louder. I've been active. My wife and I have been active for a long time. It's extremely painful to see the rhetoric. Again, I'm not going to go make comments about whether the president is a racist or not. I'm not even going to do that because we are all educated people. We can make our own opinions and form our own things. But what we all can agree, I hope so, is what has been coming out the last couple of years has been extremely painful. I don't think this country, and I'm sure there are folks here who have lived longer than I have here and who have got even deeper experiences than I have, is that we have never ever seen anything of this nature. So the Indian American community is absolutely seeing that. They may not be involved as the other communities may be in some of those issues as deep as others, but this is something that concerns them because of their children. You think about the next generation of the community. This is a big deal for them. It's a very big deal for them because we're all getting old. We're not getting younger. Our children have different names. They're going to have different names. They're going to have certain different, cultural habits. And this is a big deal apart from immigration, apart from healthcare. This comes up because no one wants their children. I have a very close friend who is not even politically active. He could vote for Republican, he could vote for a Democrat. He said, Kanan, I'll be concerned about my son driving alone a couple of months ago. His son now serves in the US Air Force. Just think about it. He serves in the US Air Force. But he said, I'll be very concerned of what's going on out there because he looks different. His skin color is different. My skin color is different. My name is different. So that is something that I think the Biden-Harris platform can heal and bring it together. Because at the end of the day, the contrast is day and night. I'm talking about policy. I'm not trying to accuse anyone. I'm not talking anything about anybody in person. I give them the benefit of doubt. But when you look at what has happened in reality, I think that is something the community is looking closely. It may not come out outside. People may not say that, but these things are deep in their heart.
Thank you so much. No, absolutely. I think it's deep in the hearts of everyone. Steve, and let me carry this question to you, and then I come to Jagdishji. What do you think in terms of the social divisiveness in society, diversity, and all? Who do you think is being able to convey a better message? Because it seems there's one on, I mean, it's like law and order versus the concerns which, like, let's say, Kanan is pointing out, right? Because the concerns which Kanan is pointing out, the counter for that from the Trump campaign is that we'll have better law and order, right? Whereas from the Biden campaign, the point is that the Union of America has a different path, and we are going to be equally firm on law and order. What is your sense on this, not trade-off, but on these parallel tracks?
My sort of sense on the situation is, I mean, obviously a lot of things that happened this summer definitely are playing into the elections upcoming and sort of various folks' stances on them. I think they are very, valid concerns that Kanan has regarding, speaking of, members of the community and such. Those are, very understandable and also understanding, I guess, there's the counter of that, and it's not, I don't think it's one, or I don't think it's as easy of it's not quite apples and oranges in terms of labeling the one or the other. I think you can have both, and sort of understanding that there is a need for sort of just more awareness and of people that are not just quick to rush to judge, but they said that it is very noteworthy of we're just supporting candidates or giving money to bail people out of jail for after just needless destructive riots. And I'm not sitting here and saying no, that is clearly all it was. No, I don't think anybody is. And obviously there's a lot of peaceful protesters and peaceful marches and demonstrations that have been going on, not just this year or the past 4 months, but for the entirety of our nation's history. So I think it is, I don't think, from my one takeaway is it's not we need either law and order or immigrants can live in our society peacefully. That's definitely not a one or the other side of it. It's not a flip side of either coin. And I think that is the interesting part of how whoever is the next president is going to be sort of find the happy medium of allowing folks to sort of just live free and happy, but also being able to live free and happy and be able to live safely as well.
That's a great point. If I may add, we run a campaign in a this thing which we call as the Live and Let Live campaign. And in that campaign, I mean, we are doing something little and spreading it out. The core idea is that live and let live, right? Coexistence with respect with each other. Now, that being said, I'll come to Jagdishji and a question which is coming, in fact, around these issues. So, Jagdishji, your take on the question I'll give you, and then we can maybe move to a round of closing comments. At the same time, I'll request any viewers who are watching by, checking by, please keep your questions coming. Share this broadcast on your timeline so that more people can share it and see it and can engage more. And this would be available as a YouTube video on the US Impact YouTube website so that it can be further shared. Now,
Robinder, can I just interject and say something about that racism issue that we just heard?
Okay, sure, Vincent. Okay, then I'll take the question your quick or your yes.
Quick half a minute. Now, when you look at the progress that Indian Americans had in this country, United States has produced more billionaires and millionaires, Indian Americans, than any other part of the world. And we have 5 Indian Americans in the US Congress right now making decisions on our behalf. Which country gives us all these opportunities? Anybody who come here with basic qualifications and readiness to work hard, they have all been successful in this country. I don't think there are many Indian Americans who go poor in this country. So whatever violence we are talking about on the basis of skin color and all of that, that is in no way anything more than what I can face in Delhi or Bangalore or Mumbai as somebody who coming from Kerala talking Malayalam or whatever. So it is all just a made up, a balloony thing that, America is a systemic racist country. A systemic racist country cannot produce this many successful Indian Americans. And that is something that, I want the audiences in India to understand, that we are not facing systemic racism here, unlike, you hear from some of the Democrats. So whatever said and done, America is a very inclusive society. America promotes diversity, and America has active laws that stops people from discriminating. And if those laws are violated, America have an independent judiciary where you can go to the court and challenge. So there is no real systemic racism here. Whatever you see in pockets, yes, that is available in all the societies. That is in very homogeneous type of an Indian society in the name of religion or whatever. And we are much, much better off than those systems.
Thank you, Vincent. Absolutely appreciated the point. In fact, but then this links up to the question which I was going to put to Jagdish ji, and I'll put it from one of the viewers who put in. Okay, America. I mean, okay, no systemic racism. Definitely, as you say, America. I mean, is the most amongst the various most imperfected or towards perfection. America is the most advanced, I would say, towards a perfect, nation in a sense. With all, but the question is interesting question. Since the US demographic is changing to when the majority is going to be a minority, okay, in terms of colors, maybe, now is the time to talk and heal rather than a unilateral law and order. So, Jagdishji, what is your take on this point that, I mean, yes, demographics in the United States are changing, right? The browning of America in some sense is happening. So, now is the time to talk and heal rather than law and order as a focus topic. What is your thought, Jagdish ji, on this?
Well, I will say what Vikramji is asking. Of course, we all know that democracy is changing drastically in USA. Like in the beginning of my comment, I said that 33% people are African American and Latinos, and they are going to be in majority according to the latest. This thing is in 2050, white will be in minority, but America is a land of immigrants. We all have equal opportunity here. If you work hard, you make money, you have a right to education, right to everything. So it's what I've seen is people who really work hard, they are successful. And yes, in few pockets there are problems, but in general, America is not a racist country. Some people do say about Trump, but let me tell you one thing. Trump is a straight shooter. He's not a diplomat. He's not a politician. He's not a diplomat. He's a businessman. He's like us. He just says what he feels like. So a lot of people do misunderstand him, but doesn't have to do with his deep thinking. I know this family personally. They are definitely not racist. In few pockets, yes, there is a problem, but that is in every country.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, Ahmed. We all are working towards a more perfect union, right? And the US is most advanced down that path compared to any country in this world, without doubt. But I'll just close off with one last comment on this from Kanan on this issue. And then we'll invite closing comments or any open ended thoughts you may have to share with our viewers. Once again, to the viewers, please keep your questions coming, your comments coming. As you can see, your questions are enriching our conversation. And I think my panelists would also agree with me that the questions which are coming are definitely, helping us, sort the issue through. So, Karan sir, your thoughts on this discussion, all around race and healing and divisive society or not, and then we move on to closing comments,
Yeah,
reflections from each of our esteemed panelists.
sure. So let me just say I respect Jagdishji's comment. I will take him at his word, and I'll say I won't challenge him on that because he has said that he knows his family. But here is the point that I would like to make. President's word do matter. He doesn't have to be a racist. His family doesn't have to be racist. I didn't even, that's why I said upfront in my comment, I'm not even, going there with that. But president's words matter, body language matters. And I don't have to repeat when comments are being made, when there is, good people on both sides, people get very concerned about this. Again, he may be a straight shooter, he may not be a politician, he's a businessman who says what is in his heart, but they absolutely matter. You go look at the record of hundreds of years of democracy in this country. Comments like that do matter. So that is why that issue has become a big deal in people's mind. And what we need is healing. What we need is bringing people together. And I think words absolutely matters. So that's my point there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kanan. One sec. What's happening? Yeah. Sorry. Thank you so much, Kanan. And I think definitely it's a discovery that each one of us is making in our own, minds and collectively as a community or sub-communities and as a nation. Thank you so much. Now,
Do we
with
come
this,
back for a closing round, Robinderji? Closing
yeah, now we
comments?
will have it.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're
Thank
closing
you.
down. So now, may I invite Vincent for your book ending of this discussion? November 3, only 3 weeks away. And what you heard here, and of course, what you're hearing in the field. I know you're out there, hitting the rubber, the tire, and canvassing, and absolutely down in the trenches. Awesome. All the best and good luck. As to each one of our idea is that more and more people from the Indian American community should be involved within the aisle towards a more, convergent, a more harmonious society within the United States, of course, and of course, which we did not go deeper into on US-India relations. But since this show today is about within the United States with a flavor or a tadka of India trade and stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts, Vincent, please?
Is this a closing remark or is this?
We can do actually one more round. I mean, if I have permission from my panelists, then we can have one round and then a final round. And this round can be okay. This round can be anything in your mind what you would like to share, depending
Okay,
upon
so
what you.
I
So
would
we
address
will.
what Kannan has said. Primarily, I understand, I agree that words matter, but people putting words in somebody's mouth and say that they have said that is not right. So President Trump has repeatedly said, starting from 2016, that he denounced KKK, he denounced all of that. And the media wanted to create this narrative that President Trump is a racist. And just like I heard earlier, he doesn't even care about the skin color. He's a very practical politician. He's a problem solver. He's a businessman. So, and if you look at his associations in the past, he has donated significantly to a lot of African American causes and a lot of African American politicians. So, when the media, especially in the leadership of CNN and MSNBC, keep on saying that President is a racist, they are doing this, they are doing that, which is not true. President Trump has repeatedly denounced KKK. President Trump has repeatedly said. On the other hand, Joe Biden is the person who was present to celebrate the birthday for the KKK founder. And Joe Biden has made very racist remarks. In the 90s, he had called all the African American youth as predators. He had called, and he spearheaded the bill that put a lot of African Americans for small crimes in jail. Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has made statements about Indian Americans, talking that without knowing the Indian American accent, you cannot even go into a Dunkin' Donuts in Baltimore. So Joe Biden is not straight when it comes to racism. And President Trump, on the other hand, he might have ignored it, but he's not a racist. Joe Biden had racism, had a racist mind. Now he's fixing it so that he can get elected. That's my thought. So we are not privy to our own facts. We can have our own rights on our opinion. We can say whatever we want, but facts are facts. Donald Trump is not a racist. So I just wanted to say that and pass it on.
Great. No, thank you for sharing. So what we'll do is that this will be one round and then the closing round next, right? So Jagdish ji, what are your thoughts and views on what Vincent said or any other open-ended observation or point you would like to make? Quick 30 seconds and then we move to Steve and then to Kanan.
Well, I would just say, I mean, my request, humble request to Indian American community, go out and vote. It's very, very important for India and for US. Whoever becomes the president, now, like I said, it is a people to people relationship. So of course it matters who is elected. But of late, what has happened in the global, the business people and people play more important role in the foreign affairs. So I would request Indian American community, go and vote whoever you think is the right person. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jagdish ji. That's a great point. And by the way, I would like to, yes, thank you, Wilson, by the way, that, some of the a hard talk kind of a thing. And it's good to have, clear cut points laid out. When you mentioned that President Trump clearly does not, give any signal or any message or any, encouragement to KKK, for example, that's, I think, good to know for the viewers, for all of us to realize and to hold any administration to that account, I would say, on that. Others, on other end. Karan, your thoughts, any reflection on this topic or broad, and then Steve, please, and then a closing round.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Thanks, Robinder. So one thing I would like to quote here, actually, because you had talked about U.S.-India foreign policy, right? Yeah, we can get too deeper into it, but I'm going to quote for the next few seconds two sentences from the Biden policy. It's on their website. Biden believes there can be no tolerance for terrorism in South Asia, cross-border or otherwise. The Biden administration will also work with India to support a rules-based and stable Indo-Pacific region in which no country, including China, is able to threaten its neighbors with impunity. The reason why I want to bring this up is this is very important to our community. No, we don't know who's going to win. I don't want to be a pundit. All pundits were proved wrong in 2016. You know my colors. I'm working every day hard to get Biden Harris elected. But that's in people's hand, right? 20 million people have voted. More than 1.2 million people have voted in Virginia. We expect close to 50% of people voting before election day in Virginia. Just think about it: 50% voting before November 3rd. So we don't know. All the polls indicate that Biden is in a stronger position. But again, we don't want to go out there and get ahead of it, right? But I want to make that point very clear is that deepening US-India relationship is extremely important to Biden-Harris ticket. And I'm very confident if we are lucky to win and serve the people, the campaign and the ticket will deliver.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Certainly, and yeah, pretty interesting. I can't reflect on that much. But Steve, your thoughts, and then we get into a closing round. Your thoughts on the conversation which is going on right now, or any other dot which you connected in your mind while you're listening to the other panelists, sir.
Well, even just listening to one of the viewers' questions, which made sense that a lot of the majority looking like me one day is probably not going to be we're going to be the minority sooner or later. So that is an interesting something to point out, especially as time goes on and future goes on, and especially how different folks sort of intermingle and stuff. So I do think that both campaigns do have a pretty clear policy position on terms of how they want to operate within South Asia and sort of proceed and carry on. So it's, as we've discussed before, that's the reason conflicting reports on what Indian Americans, where their sentiments generally lie. And so it's going to be very interesting to see. It's curious to see how exit polls are going to turn out, to see who was truly accurate on that, whether it was that 72% Indian Americans generally supporting Democrat or Democratic candidates, or if the silent majority that we all hear about is really going to come out and play that difference. So interesting to wait and see.
Thank you so much, Steve. So yeah, wait and see. So now the closing round. I'll invite any of your closing thoughts, but I'll put a small question also on it. Do we think that the results will be called and known? If not, let's say November 3, let's say November 10, because the mail-in ballots are going to come and they'll take some time. So let's say November 10 or November 15, depending upon each state kind of a thing coming up. So do we think elections would be called on November 3 or 10 or 15? That's one, your take could be. And the other is, of course, your closing thoughts, roundup thoughts, starting with Vincent.
Regarding your first question about November 3rd, It's
Yeah,
going to
November
hold.
3rd or 10th. I mean, do you think they'll,
Yeah,
because their
it's going
question,
to
like,
it's going to all depend on what percentage of the votes come absentee and what type of win the candidates are going to have. Say, for example, if Trump is going to have huge percentage margins in the states that he win without having to wait for the absentee ballots in those respective states, then the results will be called on November 3rd. So I'm talking about like 65 plus percentage point in the regular voting. If a candidate gets in a particular state, then there will be no delay. But if that is not going to happen, and pretty much it's not going to happen from at least from multiple major states, so it's going to be delayed from what I can see. So my closing remarks, I basically think that America has provided the best opportunity for Indian Americans to go and become successful anywhere in the world. It is unmatched and it hasn't changed. And American economy is what created that. A socialist economy is that we ran away from. You don't see Americans coming to India for work. We see Indians coming to America for work. So basically, socialism has not provided us. And if you look at policies of Biden, that has been hijacked by the hard liberal Democrats, socialists, and they control his agenda. Bernie Sanders' group controls his agenda. He can say that he is not for the environmental proposal, the Green New Deal. He can say that he's not for defunding the police, but all these things are still on his website. So what I am saying is, Joe Biden is a Trojan horse. He's just a dummy. He cannot really control the agenda. He's a very old man. He can say whatever he wants to say, and he hasn't provided anything substantial to the American people in 47 years of his public life. So it is time for people to understand that, the Indian Americans especially, to understand this is the country that made us the most successful ethnic minority anywhere in the world. Millionaires, billionaires, politicians, influential people anywhere in the world in a very short span of time. And whatever we are facing here, it's nothing compared to what the Irish Catholics have faced, what the Italians have faced. Things have changed in America. There is no real systemic racism here. So please understand that fact first. And the next thing that we have to worry about, the foreign policy. Democrats have been consistently meddling in India's foreign affairs, whether it comes to Kashmir or whatever we wanted to be, whatever positioning that we wanted to take with China. So Republicans have more relatively better, and President Trump is all the more better because he is a very national, patriotic type citizen. So he believes that his domain is America. He don't want to meddle in anywhere until and unless India and Pakistan ask him to meddle. So he has said very clearly that the countries should take care of their issues there, and that is very, very different from Kamala Harris and Biden campaign is talking about. They're intervening in Indian affairs. They're talking about Indian policy. I'm not talking about the rightness or the wrongness of the policy. I'm talking about the American politicians showing that interest to meddle in India's internal affairs. That is coming from Democrat side. So considering these two facts, the Indian American success in America, that is ongoing and that is being proven way beyond any doubt, and the Biden Harris administration's interest in meddling in India's internal affairs, Indian Americans should come out en masse and vote for a a Trump Pence administration. That's my request.
thank you so much, Vincent. A very articulate positioning and absolutely a pleasure. And I think listeners would be, welcoming and, not learning, I will say, because everybody has, but I mean, it's sharing what you've shared and it be inputs for their decisions as you do, as each panelist has put and shared. Now, at this point, actually, it's a pleasure for me to welcome, by the way, an opening and a closing speaker simultaneously. Sanjay, Mr. Sanjay Puri, founder chairman of the US India Political Action Committee. Sanjay, are you there, please?
Robinder, I just was listening to, so I'm just a guest listening to the esteemed speaker. So thank you. Great job by all of them. So thanks, Robinder. Please continue.
No, please, Sanjay. I mean, we are almost in the closing round, but what we could do is that the topic is, as you would know, that peak is to November 3rd. Where is America today? So, would be a pleasure to hear your thoughts for our listeners and viewers, and then I will carry on the closing comments from others, and then I'll bring it back to you maybe as icing on the cake for closing comments again. So you'll be bookending the chapters of the closing remarks. So opening thoughts from you, and once again to the viewers or listeners, we've been having great questions coming in. Please put in your questions and comments, and our esteemed panel will be more than happy to, touch base or look around the questions that you have. And this is on Facebook live page of US India Political Action Committee right now, being broadcast. Sanjay.
Well, I think we are lucky to have these esteemed speakers. I happen to know each of them personally, so I'm a little biased. So, Kanan, Vincent, and Jagdish, it doesn't get better. You can have different opinions, but uh, they're great Americans. That's what I can say, and I don't see a huge difference in issues that Indian Americans have versus any other American. I don't know whatever category of Americans you can say. We all worry about health, we all worry about jobs, we worry about security, we worry about the future of children. And everybody always says every election this is going to be the most consequential election of our times. That I don't know, but I do know that I gave up predicting elections in the last elections. All I can say is that no matter how passionate you feel, um, tweeting and talking only gets you so far. You need to actually go and vote. And now, by mailing and everything else, I think that's the true reflection of what's going to happen. And there are some interesting choices. You have Kamala Harris. No matter what you say about that, I think it shows the greatness of this country that someone like her right now is on the ballot as a vice president. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, it doesn't really matter. But you have somebody. How many countries first have proper elections that are not rigged, and then how many countries can have somebody who's got those kinds of backgrounds? So I think we need to celebrate the greatness of this country and the opportunity that, as Vincent said, it has given all of us. Now, you can argue about about Indian policies, U.S. India policies, these policies, but I just see this as a great election. And I think no matter who gets elected, one thing I know is that people like Kanan, Jagdish, Vincent, and there's slew of others are going to be represented in the coming administration in some shape or form. Indian Americans are going to play a very significant role in the upcoming elections. And my prediction to you is, no matter who wins, there will be an Indian American in the Supreme Court. That's one thing I can predict for you. Okay, Robinder, thanks.
Beautiful.
Wow, that is some nice prediction. Indian American over Supreme Court definitely is. There are lots of folks, on their way. Yes, absolutely. Come to think of it, yes. May I now invite Kanan, please, for your closing comment. Sir.
1 second. Yep. Again, thanks to you, India Pack. And that was wonderful comments from Sanjay. My closing comments would be, I think we all agree that we need to vote in big numbers. That's extremely important. We may have our differences, but we all agree. That's wonderful to hear. We need to vote in big numbers. As I said in the opening, that's a number that matters to us, that matters to everything that we stand for. Just one little comment I will just make before I finish is the Biden-Harris ticket doesn't believe in socialism. Bernie Sanders was resoundingly defeated by Joe Biden in the primaries. That's a train that has left. I'm a CPA. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't want to spend $1 more than I need to. I don't want to pay $1 more tax that I need to. Nobody wants to pay more taxes because they're Democrats. Compassionate capitalism. You guys have heard this. That actually came from the Republican administration, from Bush. We want a capitalism that actually works. That is what we are worried about. That's what I'm worried about. So I don't think the worries about if Biden-Harris comes to power, it's going to be socialism is absolutely overblown. Nothing that's going to happen. There is enough balance in the caucus that whatever happens is going to be properly vetted. The two final thing I would say is about U.S.-India. The Democrats have been in power for many terms. The U.S.-India relations have only deepened and grown. We may agree on few things, but whether it was Clinton, whether it was Obama, it has only deepened. So I don't think the fear of if Democrats come to power, there's going to be detrimental to U.S.-India. That's overblown again. And one thing about U.S.-India, This is the first time we have an Indian American, a person of Indian American origin on the ticket. Let's think about it. Whether we agree with Senator Harris's policies, we cannot deny her Indian American origin. She hasn't denied it. She talks a lot about it, but she does come from a multiracial family, and that's understandable. My final thoughts would be for the community is to vote in big numbers, no matter who you vote. And I absolutely agree with Sanjay's prediction and Sanjay's thoughts on this community is going to get even more and more roles. By the way, Obama administration appointed close to 90 Asian Americans in their administration. Hopefully that will keep growing. One final comment I have about the next couple of weeks is governance matters. That's how I started my original comment, Robinderji. Governance absolutely matter. Professor Alan Lichtman, who I had a fortune to meet in a book club last year at a friend's house in McLean, I had this interesting conversation with him. I mean, we all know it. Anybody who has read, I have his book, and I had a wonderful chat with him. Governance absolutely matters. People are not stupid. This COVID mishandling is a huge, huge issue for people. Now, a core group may not care on the other side. A core group here may not even pay attention. It doesn't matter. For most people, governance matters. So I think that is what is going to decide the election between now. And by the way, let's not forget the US Senate. The presidential power is not unilateral in this system. The Senate is also equally important, sometimes more important. So that's also in play. So the polling that we all are seeing bears out that the Biden-Harris campaign has the upper hand. Again, nothing is guaranteed. As I said earlier, you can't get ahead of yourself. So we have to work every day, but from a community perspective, we need to make sure that we tell our friends and family to vote. I am actually going to drop my ballot today at the local level. So there are tons of options. So please tell your friends to go vote. And hopefully we will have this session post-election. And you had asked November 3rd or November 10th, Rovinderji, I think it depends on the state. As we all know, the elections are managed by the states, not the federal government. So it depends on which states come up with enough margin. Then we could have a clear result on the Tuesday, or it could go several days. Again, thanks for the opportunity. I'm very happy and honored to be part of this panel, and I look forward to having a session, hopefully post-election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kanan. So much there, but I just picked on one. I will pick on one thing you mentioned, Professor Alan Lichter at American University. I studied at AU way back in 98, 2000, and I took one of his classes, audited.
Awesome,
Okay.
awesome,
His
awesome.
book, The Keys to the White House, and for the benefit of our viewers, I think everyone on this panel would perhaps have read or known about him by now. For the benefit of the viewers, Alan Lichtman developed a model, not a opinion poll, but a model to predict the election. And for the last 30 odd plus years, it has proven correct in every presidential election cycle. And when applied retrospectively to the last 200 years, also, it has proven correct as to who would have won the election. Now, last time in 2016, also, since I've known about him, I was clearly following what is he predicting, right? And he said that Trump will win, though Alan said that he himself is a Democrat. In fact, he ran for a Senate in 2004 or something, right? So Alan said, I'm a Democrat. I'm very unhappy, but my keys, my model tells me that Trump will win, which happened. This year, for the benefit of our viewers, this time round, he says that his model is predicting that Trump will lose as per his model. And the point of governance that you mentioned, yes, because in his model, there's nothing about, in fact, virtually his model says the campaigns don't matter. Apparently, he has 13 variables. Out of the 13 variables, none of them looks at the last 1 or 2 months of the campaign. A very interesting thing for the benefit of our viewers, I'll say. That being said, we can have hours of discussion on that. Now, Steve, your closing comments, please.
Thank you. And I think my closing comments are I think yeah, exactly like what Conander said about it is depending on the various states. Certain states count ballots as soon as they come in. Some certain states start counting on election day themselves. So it really depends on the absentee ballots or vote by mail and however the states themselves handle it. It's really going to depend on what the final turnout's going to be. And so yeah, my final thoughts are obviously yeah that those models like that should be taken into consideration, especially just the historical nature of them. And I don't know. I gave a prediction. I gave a prediction last time I was on here that Biden would win. I mean, just narrowing it down to the states. I don't know. I mean, I really don't see the state of Florida trending towards Joe Biden just because a lot of the Latino vote there, and it's basically Florida, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, or the 4 or 5 where it's all coming down to. I think Arizona's probably pretty safe to be in the blue column, and I mean, when it comes down to Pennsylvania, it's probably the end all be all is the Florida of this year or the Ohio of 2012. I really think that fracking issue might hurt Joe Biden there. I don't know. I'm predicting a slight Trump win, maybe even with Maine's 3rd congressional district being the difference of only 1 or 2 electoral votes. I don't know. I could be wrong. Like I said, I earlier made a Biden prediction, but just even staring at the states and looking at the map, I can't see how he overcomes the fracking issue in Pennsylvania. I don't know. We'll see.
Sure, great point. These are points. Thank you so much, Steve. May I invite now Jagdish Sewani, sorry, for your closing comments, any reflections, anything you would like to share. And once again, may I remind the viewers, anyone who's popping by, checking by, and we have good number of viewers, by the way, watching, and many of the viewers are giving questions as well as sharing this broadcast right now on their own timelines. So there's that multiplier effect going. So what you're saying, your words are actually of this panel going quite far. So Jagdish, your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Robinderji, for having me here. It's great to be here. What I would say that coming elections are very, very important. So go out and vote. And by again, one more thing I want to add, whoever becomes the president, I think relationship between India and US are going to go to the greater level. Nobody can stop it because that's what people of US want and people of India want. And like I said, that it is now people to people relationship, between the two countries, the business to business relationship. So the trajectory is such that more American companies are investing in India, more Indian companies are investing in America. So the relationship is going to go further. That's important also. Joe is a great guy who, like Sanjay ji said, whoever wins, yes, we are all here. Go and vote. Your vote counts. Your vote counts, and that's very, very important.
Thank you so much, Jagdish ji. I mean, you are very passionate and you're making this point at each message that you opportunity get, go out and vote. And the second thing you've been continuously emphasizing is US-India relations, which I think is in the hearts of all of us. Though here I would just like to mention, somebody mentioned, I think Kanan mentioned compassionate capitalism, because there was some discussion on that. Way back almost 20 years ago, I wrote a paper on compassionate capitalism when George Bush was coming, and he was actually a compassionate capitalist. So, and that's what this world needs, actually, US, India, the world, and also what we are seeing after the COVID scenario. So, we have to live and let live, compassionate capitalism, and yes, dynamism. Anyway, may I invite now uh, Sanjay, the chairman of US India Political Action Committee, to make his closing comments and wrap up. Sanjay, the floor is yours, sir.
I think, Robinder, thank you. As I said, you have some wonderful, passionate leaders of our community, people who are also grassroots activists. I mean, what I would suggest to people is look at Kanan, Vincent, Jagdish, and see what it really takes to, you know, um, be, if you really want to be in politics, that's what it takes. I mean, I have seen all of these people do the work that is needed. And I think that's what, is so great about our community. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, it really doesn't matter as long as you are involved in the system. And as far as the elections that are coming up, I think Steve pointed to, the map, historically, electoral map has been tough for Republicans because the changing demographics really are catching up. When you start looking at states like North Carolina, start looking at states like Arizona, where there's a growing Latino population. Look at Texas. Texas could change, if not this time, maybe at least in the next couple of elections. And that's a pretty hard one. So I personally think the Republican Party also will have to start changing along with times, with the changing demographics, Robinder. I mean, this is not this election issue, but it's a future issue. And I think people like Vincent and others who are active in the Republican Party hopefully are talking about this in the party too. And the other, well, maybe not for this election. You could see two Indian Americans running for president in the next election, Nikki Haley and Kamala Harris, for all you know. So anyway, thanks, Robinder.
Well, thank you so much, Sanjay. That'll be such a spectacle. Kamala Harris versus Nikki Haley. Man, that'll be so amazing.
Yes.
That being said, and with that hope and view, or
You
etc.
nailed it, Robinder. You nailed it. I mean, next election will be perhaps could be between two Indian Americans. Nikki
And we
Haley.
still call America a systemic racist country.
Then it be the the opposite. That's like positive discrimination or the negative discrimination, as it said, right? But that will be something fantastic. It's my honest and humble and genuine pleasure to have had this wonderful conversation with such brilliant minds, such a nice debate, also actually points, and I think very emphatic points, emphasis were made in terms of ideology, in terms of the reality, in terms of what we see, the hopes and dreams of not only the Indian American community. I think we are talking about the American, American society, the melting pot of America, or the fruit salad bowl of America. And the bacon on the hill, and that's where everyone wants to go. Thank you so much, each one of you, for your time and your fantastic demeanor and discussions. It's been an honest pleasure for me. Thank you so much, Jagdish Sevani. Thank you so much, Vincent. Thank you so much, Kanan. Thank you so much, Steve. And last but not the least, and the first, thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining it. Thank you, folks. Now we are going to end
Thank
the
you.
Thank you.
podcast, and this
Thank you.
would be
Thank you,
available
Robinder.
on YouTube. We will send you the link so that if you want to share or see again or put on your Facebook, so that it gets a wider audience.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.